In the first of what I hope is many corporate firings in Hollywood, Jennifer Salke, a name that might not ring too many bells for people that are out there, but when it comes to intellectual properties that have been damaged by Salke, chances are you're aware of her handiwork. But this is one of these rare occasions where a poor performance hasn't actually been rewarded, but is instead being published. Now, this is some news that dropped at the tail end of last week, and chances are you've probably heard somebody talk about it before. And hell, even yesterday I put out a video that tangentially has to do with some of Salke's work, so I guess by sheer extrapolation, I've already touched on this, but, just having the opportunity to ruminate on this news for as long as it's been, I've come to a couple of different interesting conclusions, right? Because I could just come out here and say, yeah, she was real bad, Kathleen Kennedy 2.0, blah, 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 all the stuff you've heard before, but honestly, right, like the comparisons between her and Kennedy, I think that they're fairly apt, okay, but in regards to Salke's work as opposed to Kathleen Kennedy's work, I don't think that it's really all that fair, because Salke, she's done like a Galactus level of damage by the number of stars that she has just simply, snuffed out. Whereas Kennedy has definitely snuffed out the brightest star in Star Wars. But Kathy's going to get the opportunity, and I'd imagine in a couple of weeks, Star Wars Celebration, something that I've been pointing to, is going to definitely be a very important moment for Lucasfilm moving forward. We're going to be getting some announcements on that, because I think it's coming up, in 2 weeks' time? I will focus in on that, because we got something to deal with Star Wars. I think tomorrow that one's coming out. Oy, 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 man. It's funny, right? The only time that anybody talks about Star Wars at this point in time is in a negative context, but more on that at a later date. We got to talk about Amazon right here, and yeah, Jennifer Salke, I guess the straw that really broke the camel's back, without jumping too far ahead, was probably how she mishandled, or rubbed everybody the wrong way in moving forward with James Bond. Because, okay, cool, when Amazon bought MGM Studios, obviously the crown jewel of that acquisition, that deal, it's still got to be Bond, right? Like, even with all of the damage that, Daniel Craig has done before, the way that the franchise ended with No Time to Die, it's still Bond, it's still 007, it's still one of those franchises that through highs and lows, and there have been several, and obviously, I think right now, with No Time to Die, that's probably about as low as the franchise has gotten. It's still just one good film away from being right back up at the top, because it's still a household name that can be repaired, because, well, it's not completely boned. But if Salke had her way, yeah, it would be just another dilapidated franchise. Okay, so coming up as a TV and not a movie executive, finally seems to have caught up with Jennifer Salke at Amazon MGM Studios. Her inability to mesh with the gatekeepers of James Bond movies might well have sealed her fate, while her exit from the executive suites officially is being regarded as an exit by choice into producing deal. Sources in town say that it's closer to a firing. And yeah, just going back to this article, and there's only one line that I really want to emphasize in this one, she will not be replaced. The head of the studio role eliminated in a a new structure, because yeah, you were so important, the position that you had, we're just doing away with it after you, of course, stepped down of your own volition. She was fired because she's ruined everything that she's touched, and before she got her grubby little hands on Bond, well, she was spun out to do one of the many different films that Amazon has on the way. Because here's the thing, right? Like, they aren't slowing down at all whatsoever. Amazon, despite their notable bombs, for a streaming service, now that I think about it, they have a fair few hits that are out there, right? Like, I think The Boys is absolute garbage, but whenever it's out, it charts. Terminal List, that was absolutely huge, and its second season is actually going to be a prequel, and that's either in development or very much on the way. That was very big, but now they're trying to branch into films and cinematic releases, and that's also, okay, on top of all of the Bond stuff, which we'll take a look at here, Jen's inability to work with theaters to get cinematic releases for Amazon Pictures, yeah, that's another reason why he's allowed to make movies instead of distribute them. Okay, it was evident that Salke had lost luster in the executive suite when she largely, yes, was absent from the deals that brought in. Oh yeah, and by the way, her leaving before she can ruin Bond. Don't worry, there are other people set up to ruin Bond. Brought in Amy Pascal. Amy Pascal, former CEO of Sony Pictures. You know, at the time when she thought greenlighting Ghostbusters 2016 was a good thing, and she also was there to kick off Sony's Spider-Man universe, sans Spider-Man, and is also responsible for a lot of those super highly inspired PlayStation adaptations. I think she was still at Sony, you know, when that Uncharted movie came out. She's really bad. And David Heyman, I have no idea who that is, okay? I know who Paul Heyman is, but I don't think Dave is any relation, maybe, potentially, as the new producers of the new and next iteration of Bond films. So they're going to be ass, right? But they're not going to be Salke's strain of ass. Those deals, yes, were made by veteran Warner Brothers film executive Courtney Valenti. God, there's a suspicious amount of women at Amazon who came in under Salke as head of film, streaming, and theatrical. I've heard that a condition of Pascal and Heyman signing on was that they report to Valenti and not Salke, even before the latter lost her job. Oh, okay, so they were already moving things and setting things up before the announcement was made. The 007 gatekeepers of the Flame, Barbra Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, sold creative control over the franchise for around $1 billion in February. Yeah, on top of the additional fee, because while MGM has all the rights to the back catalog of Bond films, anything moving forward in a cinematic endeavor was still controlled by the Broccoli family. So yeah, that's what led to that impasse. And also a couple of leaks that came out that Barbra was referring to the people that were at Amazon as, and I quote, fucking idiots. And now I think we have a face to put to that denigration. Sources said that Broccoli did not get on well with Salke, while the Wall Street Journal detailed that disregard that Broccoli felt for Salke owner Jeff Bezos took notice. The prize jewel 007 was moving at a snail's pace for too long. It was far and away the most valuable IP the studio has. Yeah, because we've gone through it before in MGM. Yeah, okay, you have the Rocky franchise, which, you know, I don't think anybody's really gagging for another Creed movie after 3. I know that it made some money, but I don't know, man, it's not that spectacular. And yeah, while MGM and that famous logo used to have some weight behind it, at this point in time, man, I don't know. This is just yet another example of Amazon wanting to, you know, buy some influence and buy a foothold in the entertainment industry without really having to do any of the legwork. Their attempt to get legitimacy came at the expense of Jeff Bezos' pocketbook, and well, he wasn't ready to shell out for any more disrespect and embarrassment. But yeah, here's another aspect as to why Salke was ultimately dismissed. Okay, registering disappointment in making a theatrical deal for the Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, only to see the film go directly to a streaming release despite high audience test scores that usually portend a box office success. Which, yeah, okay, for the people that reviewed that Roadhouse remake, God, when did that come out? That was sometime last year, but I completely and totally forgot about it. And yeah, it might have done something at the box office. It probably wouldn't have set the world on fire, but it would have had a bigger cultural impact if it would have just went to the theaters for a second. But because Salke fumbled that one tremendously, she ended up pissing off Jake Gyllenhaal and all of the people working on that, because that was a big kerfuffle at the time of that film's release. Like like Conor McGregor, even as goofy as he was in the film, like he got worked up about that, and then Jake Gyllenhaal as well. So it'll be interesting what their cinematic release schedule looks like moving forward, Bond included. But well, I think that yes, the Bond stuff and also the cinematic release fumbling, that's basically the big reason as to why Salke is out. Okay, the business no longer made any sense at all whatsoever after years and years of losing a bunch of dollars. Now the sense finally is what's talking. But when you take a look at the breadth of Amazon's catalog, well, a lot of their stuff has to do with streaming series. I brought up the hit that was The Boys, but the rights to that were acquired prior to Salke coming on, and something else that has been the biggest hit that is out there so far is something else, okay, that Salke has nothing to do with. So it's so funny, right? Because Amazon, it can go ahead and produce banger after banger after banger, so long as the executives have nothing to do with it. It's so wild. It's almost like they can release things that'll succeed in spite of their stewardship. Very strange. But, you know, it's strange to you and I, but when you take a look at what's going on under the hood of so many of these other streaming services and entertainment companies, it's kind of the same old song and dance completely and totally across the board. But Reacher Season 3 scores the biggest premiere yet, Amazon says, because, yeah, it's pretty damning, right? Okay, so Jack Reacher, the character, yes, who's famously a very big guy, his namesake, series continues to follow in that image. Season 3 of Reacher grabbed its biggest audience to date for its first 2+ weeks of release, according to internal figures from Amazon. The show brought in 54.6 million viewers worldwide in 19 days from the February 20th premiere, a slight uptick from Season 2 over the same amount of time to become the biggest returning series, Season 2 or later, in the streamer's record, which is absolutely insane, because by no means, oh definitely by no means, is Reacher the most expensive, the most elaborate, or hell, even the most prestige series that Amazon has out there. I talked about the other one yesterday, and a big reason why a lot of people who appreciate entertainment in general, Rings of Power, there's a big reason why there's at least some enthusiasm that's out there, Bond of course notwithstanding. But when Salke wasn't involved with the production, you ended up getting something like Reacher. When she was, you ended up getting something like Rings of Power, a billion-dollar disaster that is going to limp towards the third season. But after that, I don't know. What about Citadel? You seen the little blurb that was down there as well? Again, something else that was what, $500 million or something like that, and the premise of which she came up with on the spot when the upfronts were coming hours later in order to secure the Russo brothers. Because also scuttlebutt behind the scenes, Jennifer Salke, she very much wasn't really concerned, with the day in, day out of running a successful studio. She wanted to be able to rub shoulders with the greats, and she wanted to raise her prestige level. She wanted to be known within the industry, and as some people have referred to her as, she was less of an executive and more of a star fucker, because she wanted the prestige stuff, right? She wanted Lord of the Rings, she wanted her own, she wanted to surpass Peter Jackson's interpretation of Middle Earth, and boy howdy did she fail with that. But arguably the biggest failure, I would say, during her tenure has been what she did to a fantasy series of comparable breadth. Obviously doesn't have the same name recognition as anything from Tolkien's Legendarium, but the Wheel of Time series, okay, from fantasy fans that are out there, like, it's definitely got some name recognition that's out there in the source material, is 100% ripe for adaptation. But what Amazon has done to it, I mean, it sounds absolutely abhorrent, okay? Wheel of Time showrunner admits he intentionally made the show as gay propaganda, rather, aiming to normalize. Yeah, exactly, because that's what this is all about. Okay, it's not too dissimilar to what happened with Rings of Power, which is just all about shipping. Oh my god, guys, Haladriel, or Galron, whatever you want to do, or is Celebrimbor and Anatar up there bumping uglies in the forge. Like, that's all you write about. That's a bigger problem in entertainment, full stop. But you're taking all of these legendary IPs with built-in fan bases and writing your own fan fiction off of it because you couldn't get your own ideas off the ground. You had to go ahead and pervert something that you don't even own, and that's an industry-wide problem. But because Amazon, they're at least taking the first steps, right, to create massive, or rather correct massive issues and massive shortfalls within the industry. Perhaps they have an opportunity here, okay? If they can actually do this right, if they can correct their follies, maybe other studios, other franchise can also, because they're never going to come out and quite publicly admit that, oh yeah, we screwed up, but maybe they could silently, okay, start to put some stop gaps in place, replace some people that are very much not about creativity. This could be the start of something, or this just simply could be a one-off. I don't know, I'd like to be optimistic, but after Jennifer Salke's exit, former Amazon Studios founder calls for a purge of TV department and a retcon of Rings of Power. Oh, thank God. Shout out to this guy. Okay. Amazon Video and Amazon Studios founder and former Disney executive Roy Price. Oh, yeah. A guy who is responsible for getting a lot of the rights, okay, to a bunch of Amazon's very popular, or at least a very expensive IPs, Lord of the Rings, The Boys, Wheel of Time. Just about all of them has Roy Price's fingerprints on them. But he ended up getting Me Too'd because he told, I think, a dick joke at a party, and Jennifer Salke just managed to weasel her way into Roy's old office. Funny how that shit ends up working. Almost like Me Too wasn't about addressing any problems that are in the industry, and it was just an attempt to get a bunch of unskilled women into positions of power. Funny how that's an accurate assessment of what was going on at the time and is now just being borne out as being true years on. But anyways, called for Amazon Studios to purge its TV department and retcon Rings of Power. All right, in a recent post to his Substack, Price shared his advice on what Amazon should do in order to stop losing when it comes to TV. As part of his advice, he called for purging the company's TV department, explaining that it has become too big and is relying on consensus decision-making. Okay. Well, probably because it's staffed with a bunch of yes men and ideologically bankrupted dorks. Not only did he call for Amazon MGM Studios TV department to be cut down in size, but indicated it needs a new attitude as well. It needs leads that will get out their knives, put them in their teeth, and learn how to be a nonconformist again. Well, yeah, very much so. Okay. Speaking specifically to the shows on the docket and already in development, Price made it abundantly clear that the type of thinking that created Rings of Power must be done away with. One thing I would tell the team to do is to completely retcon everything Rings of Power so far. I couldn't agree more, because talked about it before, talked about it ad nauseum, and I'm going to continue to do it until they ultimately cancel this cinematic abortion. But the story of the Second Age, it's not the one that I would go to if I had leeway to adapt any of the ages that Tolkien expertly crafted. The Second Age would probably be close to the bottom. Wanted to, I don't know, just have something that would go on in perpetuity and it's just ripe for adaptation and you had the ability to do it. I don't know about the rights situation or anything like that, but if you were negotiating for rights, you go out there and you get the First Age, because that right now, okay, you got the technology, you've got the money, okay, you spent $1 billion on what you put out there so far. Like, just go ahead and tell all of those fantastical elements of the First Age, then you can work your way through the Second Age, then you can go through the Third Age, and if you are feeling a real nasty after that, once you have a firm understanding, because that right there, like, that's Jesus Christ, if you want to go ahead and adapt everything that's there, you're probably set for literal decades, okay, honestly. And if you wanted to continue that and move it forward like a real true franchise, like what you bought with MGM and James Bond, like, you would be able to perhaps, not that I'd ever advocate for this, but potentially do something with the Fourth Age. But of course, we're dealing with a bunch of just crayon chomping retards, okay? But no, this is a point in time where we could have peak fantasy movies and television. But instead, no, it's just focusing in on superfluous elements like casting and female empowerment. Nothing that engages audience, but it sparks conversation on Twitter, which is, I guess, the most important metric, right? But that was an experiment, and now it's non-canonical, and we are starting over from scratch. It basically never happened, and we are literally throwing it away. Oh, from your lips to God's ears, Roy. Price even suggests that a single episode of Patrick McKay, J.D. Payne's Rings of Power may be created, where everyone is slaughtered in an orgy of blood that would make John Woo blush, and they are finally eaten by Tom Bombadil, who then lurks through the forest covered in gore, singing, oh yeah, hey doll, a merry doll, ring-a-ding-a-dillo, ring-a-dong, hop along, fa-la-la the willow, Tom Bomb, jolly Tom, Tom Bombadillo. At one point in time, his jacket was blue and his boots were yellow, but now they are covered in the blood of his enemies. That would be so great now, wouldn't it? But no, that's not what's going to happen. At best, you would hope that, yeah, you know, they just wrap up Rings of Power, because as I've said before, and I think I just said in the video from yesterday as well, or from Monday rather, the way that Payne and McKay talk about 50 hours, not 50 episodes, I kind of think that there are definitely conversations, and, you know, especially with the dismissal of Salke, yeah, okay, cool, you'll get your 50 hours, but we're already, you know, taking a look at everything that we have so far. Yeah, we got like, you know, 16 episodes in the can, and that, you know, when we go ahead and we do all the math that's right there, yeah, it's about 20 hours, so you got about 30 hours that are left, so you can go ahead and do another 8-hour season, 8, 9, 10 when we all round up with the, you know, carryover and shit like that. So yeah, you can go ahead and you get your third season, then whatever's left off of that, we'll do a couple of specials. But no, you're not getting 5 seasons that we said before. We'll just go ahead and wrap this up, and maybe, you know, we'll shelve the Lord of the Rings stuff, or perhaps then they'll just jump back into the first age, or jump ahead to the third age, the beginning of the third age, and tell a different story with much more experience and much more competent showrunners, which is, for as good as it is getting rid of an executive, you should also take a look at, you know, just purging all of those worthless creatives, because when it's all said and done, it's nice to see a figurehead take the fall. But if any of these series were actually successful, Salke would be there, and nobody would have been calling for her firing to begin with. So yeah, you're on the right track. Is just continue on down that path, and you might end up doing something worthwhile. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.